Greetings from the CK-12 studios in beautiful Palo Alto, California. We'd like to wish you happy holidays. I'm Carl, and I'd like to welcome everybody to this community-contributed and non-STEM content on CK-12 webinar.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lindsay. Before coming to work for CK-12, I taught high school English and video production for 10 years. So I'm always excited when this webinar comes back around because we talk a little bit about non-STEM content as well as how to find community contributed content for math and science as well as the other subject areas. There's just lots of ways that I think I could have used the CK-12 platform to make my teaching easier and help students with their learning. So I cannot wait to give you guys some ideas today. Many of you joining us may have participated in the CK-12 Certified Educator program that we ran this July. Today's session is a continuation of that program if you are interested. Our Certified Educator program is completely free, and participants become certified when they attend 5 live webinar sessions, watch 2 on-demand sessions, and complete 7 matching assignments. If you joined us for sessions this summer and are attending today to fulfill your requirements, please continue to do any of your work in the CEP July 2019 class. If you are kind of mystified right now by what I am talking about, you can go to ck12.org/certified to learn more about our program and to also register with us. There is a register button at that link that you can fill out an information form, and we'll send you details about how to join the program and get started with assignments. We can talk about this more at the end of today's webinar, but I just wanted to mention it for any of you who are joining us from that program. Welcome.
Now let's make sure that everyone is comfortable with the Zoom webinar platform. You should see 2 different options on your Zoom screen, one for Q&A and one for chat. During today's presentation, whenever you have a question about CK-12, please post it in the Q&A window. The chat window is a place for community conversation. We'd love for all of you to introduce yourselves. If you're an educator, feel free to share where you live and what subject you teach. Just make sure that in the chat window, you are sending any general posts to all panelists and attendees, not just to CK-12 or the panelists. Also, while we don't anticipate any technical issues during our broadcast, if you have any trouble with your video or sound, please let us know in the Q&A or chat windows. In fact, we'd like to learn a little bit more about you right now before we get on with this webinar. We're going to launch a poll with 2 questions right now. What non-STEM area subject area are you hoping to learn more about during this webinar? And feel free to choose which one you're interested in. Finally, what areas are you most interested in today? And this is the choose all that apply. You're interested in finding out about creating a FlexBook from scratch, finding community contributed content on the website, or creating your own questions and quizzes. So I'll give you a few minutes to vote.
And just a reminder to, if you're posting in that chat window, to send it to all panelists and attendees. We just had a couple of cool posts in there. Actually, one of our users is greeting us from the world's first online high school. So if you want to send that to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see it, that would be great. And then I am curious, again, we'll be talking about math and science today in the community contributed area, but we're also going to cover these non-STEM. So I don't know, Carl, what do you think is going to be the winner in the subject here?
Underwater basket weaving. Oh, wait, that's not an option. I'm going to guess social studies. I'm guessing that. And I'm not even cheating and looking at Katie's computer. That was on my own. And I guess it's time to clear this out. So the final submissions, please. And Katie, go ahead and close it. And let's look at the results, see if I was right. And look, with 55%, social studies is what you want to find out about today. Language arts is next at 41%. And then foreign languages and the rest. So very interesting.
And then for the second question, it looks like creating books from scratch and finding content. And those are the 2 main things that I'm going to be covering. And we will talk just briefly about creating your own questions for those who are interested, but we won't dwell on that as much. I'm glad that your guys' answers matches our thought process and planning for this.
So we've created a handy resource page for each webinar session. You can find it in the tiny URL listed on the screen, which is tinyurl.com/CK12CC NonSTEM. And we'll also put it in the chat window right now. You're welcome to print these resource pages or simply save them to use as a reference down the road. And with that, let's get started.
Let's get started. As you may know, CK-12 has the most coverage for STEM content, specifically for middle school and high school math and science, but our platform can be used in a variety of ways for a variety of subjects. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about that non-STEM content. We're going to talk about the schools page. I'm going to show you how to search community contributed content specifically. We'll talk about creating that FlexBook from scratch, and we'll talk about writing our own questions.
I think it's been helpful to remind everyone that for many years, CK-12 Foundation's main priority has been math and science. Quote, advanced learning of math and science with world-class multimodal, free, customized curriculum, content, and assessment on a digital platform that will lead to personalized instruction and reduced workload for teachers. One question we get asked all the time, if there are plans to expand our content to offer more non-STEM areas. The short answer is, times are changing. We are so excited that our users are now developing content in subjects beyond our initial scope of math and science. Even our homepage is now highlighting content from the CK-12 community in areas like social studies and photography.
And maybe that's the first thing, that's a good place to start. When you are logged into our site as a teacher, in the middle of the page, you're going to see this prompt that says, what do you want to teach today? And you can start browsing subjects from this menu option. So on our homepage, under the English branches, for instance, you can see that we have some content for writing and for spelling. You'll see numerous subjects listed under social studies, bunches of them there: economics, geography, government history, philosophy, sociology. And then you're also going to find a few additional subjects under more, covering everything from astronomy down to technology. So this is one good place, just right there on your homepage as a teacher, to access some of this non-STEM community contributed content. When you select one of these non-STEM areas, you're going to see some books that have been created and edited by the CK-12 team. There's an example of that on the left, that U.S. history source book, where you can see it says created by CK-12. And then you're also going to see some books that CK-12 has chosen to highlight from our community of educators. Like on the right, you can see that that's an EPISD book, our friends in El Paso, Texas. They're the ones who have authored and edited that book. I'm going to talk more about this in my live demo, but just keep in mind that there's always some information on the details page that can tell you who authored that book. So one thing to keep in mind is, when we say that we have the most robust resources for middle school math and science, that means that we're built out with all of the different modalities, that we have real world applications and Plix and simulations and practice and all those things that make CK-12 learning come alive. When we're talking about the community contributed and non-STEM books, you're not necessarily going to see all of the modalities across all of those subjects. Spelling is like an interesting exception because it does have adaptive practice questions, but sometimes you're just going to be able to access the book or some one-off type modalities for those subjects. So that doesn't mean that we don't have interdisciplinary concepts that would work well in your subject area. Our interactives team does an awesome job here, and I was talking to them about what they have in other subject areas, and they said, oh, make sure to highlight some of our non-STEM Plix, because they definitely keep that in mind when they're developing. So here are some examples. This first one could be used for history or social studies. It's a graphs of systems of linear inequalities and two variables, and it's talking about President Jefferson's octagonal home. So cross-disciplinary connection there. Then in the field of art, this one looks super cool. We've got supplementary angles, talking about angles and lines and perspective drawings. Fashion design, how do matrices work with the houndstooth pattern? For cooking and home ec, we've got some plics that talk about teaspoons and cups and milliliters. And then in photography, we have an interactive that students could use on stem and leaf plots and histograms. So as you can see, there are lots of opportunities to dive in the cross-curricular areas on our site. Let me go live to our homepage here and show you what some of this looks like in action. In case we didn't mention it earlier, again, we are a nonprofit. Everything you see on CK-12 is free. We do just want you at some point to sign in or join if you haven't already. So I am in a demo account here and I am signed up as a teacher. So that's why you're viewing this homepage. I could flip over to a student version, which is a slightly different version. Like I said, students like to just go straight to that search option. So we're front loading that for them. But as a teacher, these are the branches that I referenced earlier of what do you want to teach today. So from the homepage, you can immediately jump into some of our resources from these branches. So I'm going to, under the English branch, I'm going to click on writing. And this took me to a bookshelf of our CK-12 FlexBooks on writing. And I'm going to open up this Common Sense composition book. This was content that was donated from the folks at San Jose State University. So under the details tab in some of our books, you can learn about the author, and you can also see the last time the book was created, or sorry, when the book was created, and then the last time that it was modified. So things to keep in mind when you're surfing for content, because I'm sure you want a little context about the creator and, you know, how current is this resource, how recently was it updated. You can find that information on the details page. Remember that with any of our resources on our site, they all have unique URLs. So if you wanted to get this book in the hands of your students right now, you could just copy this link up at the top and share it with your students, with your parents, and that can be your book for your class. Of course, you can also start customizing, and you can make changes to the title, to the content, and even update this to a FlexBook 2.0. So that's one way to search content. I'm going to click on the CK-12 icon up here, which is a great way to navigate back to the home page. And I want to show you that another way that you can browse content is to use the search bar. So let's see, let's type in something like photography. And you can see that our newly enhanced search bar is going to give me some options here. Here it's asking me if I want to search all of CK-12, which I do. And so it's showing 25 results for photography. So not a crazy amount, but you can see here up at the top, there's a real world application talking about histograms. Here's the plics that I just showed you earlier in the presentation. When you're navigating our search results, remember that we have filters over here on the left side to more quickly get you what you're looking for. Like, you know, photography isn't the most popular subject on CK-12, obviously, but you can use filters. I often find that grades is not the best way to filter, but if I know that I'm looking for an interactive, if I know that I'm looking for a video, I will narrow down my search by using the categories. So that's my helpful tip for you. Lots more to cover, but why don't I come up for air here in a second? Carl, I know you're monitoring the Q&A. Has anybody jumped in with any questions yet?
You know, our Q&A window is a little quiet, so we'd love you to participate. Remember, you're going to put your questions into the Q&A window, and we would love to answer them. But at this point, I think let's just keep learning, because this is exciting.
Okay, well, I think you're going to go back to the keynote presentation. I don't know if it's that I'm doing just such a fantastic job of presenting that they don't have any questions, or do we have the timid folks on the line? Please jump in with anything that I can show you more thoroughly here. But let's go on to this next subject here, which is navigating the schools page.
So like Lindsay said, we have community generated content, and it's a huge growth area for us. As many more districts are using open resources and using teachers to curate and customize content instead of purchasing through the publishers, you'll continue to see more and more non-STEM and even advanced placement and international baccalaureate sites on our site. And at this point, just understand that more than 200,000 FlexBooks have been customized on CK-12. And a lot of this is based on our original math and science books, but a lot is also brand new content on these new exciting areas.
Okay, so specifically on the schools page, this is one of the best places to see books that other districts have created and opted to publish on our site. I like using that explore option from the top menu option there, and you'll see quick access to many of the things I'm going to reference today, but one of them over on the left is that schools page. You could also go to the direct link of ck12.org/schools if you would like. So when you arrive at the main schools page, it should automatically pull up books in the state or region that you're in. So here it knows that we're in Palo Alto, California, and it's going to pull up books that schools have published and elected to put on our site and tag it to a specific school or district. We would love everybody, I mean, like Carl just said, we have hundreds of thousands of books, but really only a small portion of them are represented on these schools pages. We would love for more districts to start publishing their content here because it's easier for our users to see what other districts are doing all in one place. If you need to put your resources on here, if you can't find your school, you can click on that link over there on the right that says can't find your school. And it's going to pop up a Google form where you can claim your school or district page. And this is just a one-time thing for one person in your district. So you might think about the most logical person, which might be an administrator or an IT person, whoever's going to be responsible for that school's page. And then they can start publishing your books and making them easily accessible right here at ck12.org/schools. So one district that we always like to highlight because of their quality of community contributed and non-STEM books that they've made accessible to everybody is El Paso Independent School District. We do mention them a lot in webinars because they are committed to going open and systematically creating FlexBooks with teams of teachers and writers and editors. So if on the schools page you go to Texas and you scroll down and you see El Paso, you're going to find that they've adapted a lot of our math and science books, but then they also created AP US History, AP Government, Macroeconomics, Social Studies, World History, and so much more. They're working on English books, Spanish books, Social Studies books. So our platform, you can take our content and use it as is, but you can also create anything you want on our platform. So El Paso has chosen to develop all of their books in the CK-12 platform, and they've got a system to do that. I want you right now, I'm going to show you just a quick video clip to hear from our friend Tim Holt, who leads this initiative in El Paso. And in this clip, he's going to speak about the CK-12 partnership and why he thinks it's so important to share resources with others.
One of the neat things about open education resources, Creative Commons, CK-12, is that when you create something, it doesn't just stay with you. You actually have to put it back up for others to share. And so whatever you create becomes part of the larger community. So all the textbooks that EPISD has created are up online for anyone to use. And we encourage people to use them. We encourage people to give us feedback. You know, we know that we can always do a better job. And if there's a school district that wants to use our textbooks, please do. We actually have been contacted over the years by many school districts that are interested in saving money. They're interested in open education resources. They're interested in having control over their, I think Apple calls it controlling the whole widget, from beginning to end. And so when you control the curriculum, when you control everything, including the textbook, you're in control of the whole widget. And that's something that CK-12 allows you to do. And EPISD is more than willing to share our processes. We're more than willing to share our books. That's part of the deal with CK-12, is that you're sharing what you create.
And he's sincere about that. If you are interested in connecting with Tim Holt or anyone else, shoot us an email to jumpstart@ck12.org. We'll put that in the chat window several times throughout this webinar. But if you're like, hey, who's doing social studies books, connect me with somebody. I want to learn about their process and how they're doing it. We're here to help you make those networking connections. So just shoot us an email and we're happy to do digital introductions. And everybody that's in this work in this field, they're happy to pay it forward and help others to be successful. This testimonials page, the Tim Holt video was just one of like several hundreds of videos that we've collected from teachers and administrators across the country. So if you're looking for just more kind of sound bites, or if you're presenting on CK-12 yourself or wanting to share this with others, you might check out this page and find more clips that give you ideas of how to implement CK-12 at your school or district. So the next thing that I want to specifically talk about is finding community contributed content, whether it's STEM or non-STEM, through our search feature. So once again, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to take you back from the homepage because I think it's always helpful to go back to the homepage to get started. Earlier we searched for photography. So let me go ahead and do that again, photography. And all of CK-12. And we talked about this tab here. I don't even know if you noticed it earlier because we do a good job of hiding it, but it serves up CK-12 content here in this tab. So real world applications, Plex videos. But if I flip over to this community contributed tab, I'm going to see things that were specifically contributed by other users. So this photography and yearbook is created by EPISD journalism. We can see that. But here we have a read on build your own digital photography portfolio, and it's in a couple of books here. We have a FlexBook that's on Digital Imaging 1. And you can see, again, this is from Stephen, and I could open up the book and read more about Stephen. If I scroll down, I'm gonna find other books created by our users. And so this is just an underutilized feature. I think not enough people know about it, that the CK-12 tab, this is content that we have curated, that we have vetted, that we have edited, but users can put up their own resources as community contributed, and you can search for that and find that on our site. So I encourage you to try this. If you're following along, try that search bar, search for a concept that you're going to be teaching here at the end of the year, at the first of the year, and switch over to that community contributed tab and start opening up resources and seeing if there's anything of value there for you. And don't forget that you can filter by category here as well. So I searched for photography, but you could also search for like broader subject branches. Like, I'm going to search AP English, and we'll see what comes up here. So our CK-12 content, it's going to serve you up the Common Sense Composition book, things that we've already explored a little bit. But if I go over to the Community Contributed tab, here's where we have some of our educators who have put their books on our site. Like I've looked at this one before, this Hacking into Literature, Life and Ourselves. It's an AP English Lit and Composition book, apparently from 2015, 2016, but literature doesn't radically change in a few years. So I might choose to open up that book and use that as a primary resource in my class to begin my customization process. So don't worry about, don't feel like you're limited to just concepts. You could also search for branches up here. And then you can also search for even something like keep talking about EPISD, and searching for them takes this to our schools page. So the search for the district took you there. Let me go ahead and show you, because this, I believe, is a question in our Q&A about the schools page. From our home page, when you're signed in as a teacher, under this Explore option, you can select schools. And it will, like I said, it should geotag you. I'm in California right now. We usually get pretty close. Sometimes when I'm in Kansas, it thinks I'm in Texas. I think, Katie, sometimes you're in Massachusetts, and it thinks you're in New Jersey. But it should get you pretty close to people around you. And you can scroll through and you can see these schools that have elected to put their books on our site. And then here's that claim school button. If you can't find your school, we'd love for you to put your books on our site as well. So that's the schools page. One other thing that I want to show you in the community contributed area that I think is really cool, especially if you're science teachers. If I go to our simulations, and I'm going to flip over to our chemistry simulations. And this first one, this going fishing simulation. Our simulations are great. They're fully animated environments with a bigger, thinking question here. You would watch a video, you would scroll through it. That's not what this webinar is really about. What I'm wanting to show you is that at the end, we have some community contributed tabs on this simulation. And these that you're viewing on the screen right now were contributed by students. So we have, in a lot of these webinars, given out the idea that teachers should have students come up with their own extensions, their own applications of that real world simulation. And so somebody took us up on it, and here's where students have contributed their own work. And this is exciting because students like authentic audiences, and they go home and they say, hey, grandma, grandpa, look, what I contributed is now on a website. So there's also community contributed tabs on our simulations, which is exciting. So I'm going to stop once again. And how are we doing with our questions, Carl?
Well, we actually have a number of questions. And the first comes to us from Ellen. Can you help me find the schools page to see the book? So let's just go over that one more time.
Okay, and I think I just showed that under the Explore option is a great place to do it. Explore and then Schools takes you directly to the schools page, or you can see we've got some short links up here, ck12.org/schools, and then even / the area you're wanting to go to. And you can flip through the different states, or if you are international, you will see international listed here.
Great. So the next question is, so FlexBooks. Can you just make mini FlexBooks for specific classes and not full-blown textbooks?
Sure, you can make textbooks for whatever you would like. And I'm going to show you here in probably 10 minutes about creating a new FlexBook. And some teachers create units, so more of that bite-sized book. They might have just Q1's resources, and then they have a new book for Q2. The book's just the shell, but you're going to see that it has a table of contents, and it can be divided up into what we would traditionally call chapters, but you can, call those sections or whatever you would like. You could break it down by month. So you could create as many little mini booklets as you would like, or bucket it all into one giant book.
And the next question comes from us from Kansas City. And we have Casey, who I met at the EdSurge conference. And it was great to see you here today, Casey. She's asking, are the community contributed items vetted?
So that's an interesting one. I'm going to go back to our homepage here, and I'm going to switch over to the student version. Traditionally, in general, we have partitioned the site so that there are those two tabs that I showed you when searching, where it's clearly marked CK-12 content and clearly marked community contributed. And that's the way it is for the most part. The exception is that we're starting to highlight a lot of other districts' really high quality content, because why not, right? So here, when I switch over to the student version, if I scroll down, I've told you that we're mainly science, we're mainly math. So what you're seeing here on this homepage, these social studies and photography books, these are resources that our team has checked out, that other schools and districts have created, that we think are worth surfacing easily for our users. So out of the hundreds of thousands of books, we've kind of selected these as some of the best representations for economics and geography. So it's gotten the CK-12 stamp of approval, let's say, for that. But in general, Casey, we do kind of make that separation, because obviously we can't search through everything that our community contributes. So we try to put it on that other tab and clearly have the author. So again, if you're ever curious of like whose government book is this, if you open it up, you can see that this particular book is the EPISD United States government book that our team has checked out and thinks that it's quality content, but you can make your own decision as a user. And again, the details page often gives you more context.
And I really want to point out here, when we've been looking at books, is the question that we've asked ourselves, would this book be of value to anybody? Like, not that, will this book be the perfect solution for you? Because if it's on the CK-12 site, you can take the EPISD book there and you can click customize and you can make it perfect yourself. So I think that's the exciting part here, is that we're just trying to kind of let you know what's new and noteworthy, kind of the way iTunes does, of here's something that we think you might enjoy that was created by our users. And we don't want to hide it away, we want to highlight it. So, you know, the similar to where on iTunes, where you get to see some interesting things that, you know, iTunes users are in the Apple Store, you can find stuff more easily because we've kind of, you know, offered it to you as something you might want to check out. So I think that's all the questions we have right now, and I'm going to go ahead and steal the screen back, and let's continue on here.
Awesome. So the next topic is about creating a book from scratch. And this is cool. Our team travels around and goes into classrooms and sees how CK-12 is being used. And Katie and I were in Middletown, Delaware, observing a teacher who was assigning CK-12 through Schoology. He was a science teacher, and kind of offhanded, he said, you know what? I liked using CK-12 for science so much that as the assistant lacrosse coach, I told the head coach that he should be using it for our team, with our athletes. Because he's like, we're looking for one place to have our playbook, to put, you know, like fundamental videos, but then to also put recording of game footage, things for them to think about. And he thought that the FlexBook was the perfect delivery method for that material. Because remember, what's exciting about our FlexBooks is that they're accessible on pretty much any device. They're going to work on your phones, on your tablets. They're going to work on your MacBook, your Chromebook, your iPad. So when you've got a bunch of athletes on a bus, like, this is one, you know, delivery method that's going to be easily accessible for all of them. So I encourage you to kind of just think outside the box here of, instead of housing things in Google Docs or, you know, whatever your organization system is, if you're anything like me, I just had folder upon folder upon folder of stuff dumped everywhere. This is a living, editable platform that can house your information in an organized way and push it out to your students with just sharing a URL that they can use on any device. So that's pretty exciting.
So in getting started with FlexBooks webinar, we discussed some best practices when editing books with teams of teachers. And I'd like to review some of the things you might want to think about when working on non-STEM books from scratch. Form your curriculum teams. Assign one person to be the leader. And then create a FlexBook, not in that leader's CK-12 account, but in a kind of a school or district account. So for example, if I'm creating some new Spanish books in my school district of EPISD, I might go to my district and say, can you give me an address called spanish@episd.org? And then I use that address on CK-12. I log in with that credential, and I can then go and create the books that I want to make. But the good news is, if I happen to leave the district and go to Isidra down the road, the book still lives with EPISD. So it's not Carl that owns the book, it's EPISD. So we suggest that you have common credentials like this. That way then too, if somebody else wants to go in and edit it when I'm not editing it, they can go in with the credentials, and I don't have to give my personal credentials. I can give them kind of these shared joint credentials. Then the leader's going to break up the work by chapter and kind of make sure that everyone's using a common style guide. And then add in original content or open source content that complies with our CC BY BY-NC license. So for those of you who are not familiar with this, this is a Creative Commons license. And you need to be license compliant when using CK-12. And while CK-12 is free, it's still under copyright. It's an open copyright, but a copyright nonetheless. The most important parts of the Creative Commons copyright is that we require you to give us credit. And that's the AC part. It stands for attribution, okay? And then finally, non-commercial, the NC is meaning you can't sell it. So don't go ahead and sell content that we gave you for free, because that's just not very nice. All right, we frequently travel to Go Open summits where districts are committed to using open resources. It's been a great place to find out more about information about the open educational resource movement. Not surprising, over half the Go Open districts use CK-12 to meet their commitment. And I encourage you to visit the Go Open website and consider using their district launch packet as a guide.
For all of you social media users as well, like hashtag Go Open is just a great one to see what's going on in education of people thinking outside of the traditional printed textbook. I really enjoy that community, and the government website's one place, or there's the goopen.us or the Go Open network that you can Google. Just great information out there of how to get started with open resources if you're in a school or district that's still thinking about how and why you might want to do that. So one other thing, again, we're just gonna, I wanna show you the possibilities of writing your own questions. We're not gonna go too deep into a demo of exactly how this works, but if you're creating your own books on our site and you want the opportunity to create your own questions for students and create digital quizzes, you can do that. You can do that on our platform. So quickly, these are the question types that we offer you of select all that apply, true, false, short answer, fill in the blank, drag, drop, highlight, and discussion questions. So I'll show you the question editor in a minute, but in general, you're gonna follow these steps to customize your questions. You're gonna first choose what kind of question type you wanna serve up. You write the question prompt. You add in answers and any of the distractors that you might wanna add in. You can include a hint if you like. Our practice problems usually have hints because we view it as practice. If this is a more high stakes quiz, you might eliminate the hints. You can select a difficulty level for your question. You can add in any additional question details. And then for you folks who need to use variables, there's also the option to use those as well. So an important thing to talk about for you folks who may be creating questions outside of what we're offering on CK-12, it's that concepts box there becomes really important because all questions have to be tagged to a concept on our site. That's just how the back end of a technology site works. So if you're creating a concept or creating a question for a concept that's not easily associated with a concept we have on math, science, or spelling, we give you the option to tag to a resource in your library. So like one of the lessons in that new FlexBook that you've created, or if they're creating lacrosse questions, you know, he would tag it to that chapter, that lesson on lacrosse. I'm going to share my screen and show you a quick demo of how to create a book from scratch, and then I'll briefly show you how to write your own questions, but keep that concept blank in mind because that's important. And also remember that this is kind of just getting your feet wet a little bit, that we do have other webinars and help resources on our site that show you more thoroughly how to customize FlexBooks and then also how to customize our adaptive practice questions to become quizzes. All right, I'm going to share my screen again. Also, thanks for joining us if we haven't said that enough already. I know that it's the end of the school year for a lot of you, and there's a lot of ways that you could be spending your time right now. So we are really appreciative that you're spending it with us at this moment, trying to learn and better yourself. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm back here at the home page, and when we're talking about creating a brand new book, we showed you that you could start with one of our books, you could start with a different school district, but if you're like, I'm just gonna start with that blank shell of a book, your library is what houses your customized resources, and it's also the best place to go to create a new resource. Okay, so all I did is from the home page, I went to my library, and you see this nice big create new option over here in your library. And when I select that, I've got the option to create several different types of things. Modality, we use the word modality as like different ways to learn. If you were wanting to set up just a lesson plan, just a digital lesson, you'd probably do that as a modality. And again, you get a URL that you can share with your students. You can assign it through an LMS if you would like. But we're talking about books at the moment. And our FlexBook 2.0 is the answer for you. So I'm going to select the FlexBook 2.0. And the first thing that you're going to be asked to do is to give this book a title. Oh, golly, what's my title? Let's do Jazzy Holidays. That's the spirit around here right now. I could change the image of this book to have some jingle bells on there, or maybe a baby grand piano. And I can add in other details and resources, but just to kick this process off, I'm going to save the start of my book. So here we go. This is by Jumpstart D. That's my Jumpstart demo account. There's the title, and you can see that I am the author of this book. Okay, so it's empty, which isn't very exciting. So I'm going to choose to edit my book. All right, hopefully you guys are with me. Even though I saved the book, remember, it's a living, breathing thing that you can edit it at any time. Even after you've published it, students are using it, you're assigning from it, you can still make some edits to your book. So when I edit my book, I need to add in some content. And if I were teaching math or science or spelling or something that I know CK-12 has, I might search for CK-12 and I might say, hey, I'm teaching a lesson on the water cycle. And I'm going to search, and I could find content here to add in. Okay, I'm going to take this water cycle read and I'm going to add it to my FlexBook. And so like magic, it's appeared as chapter number 1 here in my table of contents, or section number 1. On the right here, this is where we have options to edit the content that we build in the table of contents. So the water cycle actually has nothing to do with my Jazzy Holidays. So I'm going to delete or remove here by pressing the X, the water cycle. And I can always add that back in. Remember, like everything can just be added and deleted, however you want to organize things. So instead of searching CK-12 for content, I'm going to create a brand new chapter. And I'm actually going to start with something boring, like maybe, I should have picked Jazzy Holidays. I don't know where to go with my chapter title. What do you think, Carl?
I would call it Snowflakes.
Oh man, okay. This book's going downhill quickly, but chapter title. So the first title for our holidays is Snowflakes. Can you name any different types of snowflakes?
Eskimo snowflake.
Oh man, yeah, okay.
They have I think they have 30 different words for snow, so that's why I
got it.
Suggested that.
Okay, so somebody just typed in the chat. Somebody save us from this conversation. But anyway, so this just created my chapter here. Okay, but we need to create some reads underneath here. So I'm actually going to do snowflakes made out of paper. And I can save this lesson, and I could, now I'm in the editor, so I would want to type of like instructions. This would be a fun activity, right? We are going to we're going to make snowflakes out of paper. And then if I had an image here, I can include an image into my lesson. We get lots of questions about the best way to find images. And again, you need to be license compliant. So you're searching for images that would follow the CC by NC license. One site that I personally like, I don't work for them or get paid for being an ambassador or influencer, but I like the site Unsplash. They're photos for everyone. They're free. I have no idea what they have for snow, but let's test it out. If I search for snow on the site, I like it because these images are taken by photographers and they're put up on the site, and they just ask for attribution to it. So, and I think they're better quality than a lot of Google clip art and random stuff. So this looks like a nice snowflake, I think. And if I wanted to download it, It says attribution is appreciated, and so I can embed a credit badge. We know who the photo is by, so I can copy this, which is kind of exciting because we'd want to give attribution. So over here, when I want to insert the image, I would have downloaded it, I would choose that image file, and then I would say, I don't hold the copyright, but my source was Unsplash, and the photographer was Damien McCoig. And then I would insert that image into my book. The next thing we'd want to do is we'd want to have images of snowflakes falling, obviously, so we could embed multimedia here. This embed code box, people often associate that with videos, which is true. It could be a YouTube video, a Vimeo video, but it's also anything with an embed code. So for you avid Google users, your Google Slides presentations, they all have an embed code that you can pull. Even like Excel spreadsheets have an embed code that you can pull. So anything with an embed code, you copy it, you paste it into this box, and you insert it into our lesson, okay? So you can just start building all of this from scratch. It might be helpful, since my book is terrible, I'm gonna find, it's not, Carl, it's not good. Let's be honest. Let me show them just a good book real quick. So
you need to watch another webinar.
No, but let me come back and let me show you something that's a little more worthwhile here. Of like, let me click on our physics book just so you can get an idea of what it would look like. Here, again, they've picked a cover, given it a title. You can give your book a description, and then if you would set up all of your different chapters, like our chapter title was Snowflakes, and then Snowflakes Out of Paper was the first lesson of like your main chapter is going to appear, your lessons are going to appear underneath it. And then at any time that you want, you can go back and you can customize that book or edit that book. And remember, you can shuffle things around, you can remove, you can delete, and then you can go into the lessons themselves. Like, wait, what lesson? Average acceleration. When you go into the lesson, you're going to see images. You have the ability to add in like vocabulary. Here they've used an embed code to put in an interactive. So this is what you can build out within our site. Okay, but all of that was kicked off initially from going to your library. And again, you're going to see what I started to make here with my holidays book, but you go to create new and then create a new FlexBook 2.0. Okay, so let's briefly talk about that, creating questions for a digital quiz that you might want to give. And we can do this from the same spot here. So in my library, create new, you can see that quiz is an option. So I'm going to select quiz. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with this feature or not, but you can create quizzes from our bank of 150,000 questions. So I could add in a question set, what did I use here, the water cycle. I could search for water cycle, and we have 77 questions on the water cycle that are tagged to biology. We could drill down and we could talk about the rock cycle, distribution of water on Earth. I can add in question sets that we have available on CK-12, okay? I can also create new questions. So here where it says create new questions, you can blend, you can use some of ours and some of your own. You can just create some of your own, however you want to do it. But this is this question editor I was previewing for you earlier. And so you can choose what type of question you want to have, where I am going to ask a Englishy question. Let's say, in what decade was Romeo and Juliet written? And because I'm a good English teacher, I'm going to highlight this and use the italics and italicize it. You got all of your editing menu options up here. And then this is a multiple choice question. So let's add some. Let's do 1570s. Let's do 1600s, 1610s, 1590s, okay? I have to select what is the answer. So actually the 1590s is the correct answer. So let's put that up there. 1570s. If you are working on something where you want to have a full step-by-step solution to explain the answer, you could type it in here. Again, variables, you math folks, you might use it over here. But I told you that this add concepts option is going to be important because I just created a question on literature and Shakespeare, and I can tell you that CK-12 doesn't have any concepts based on Shakespeare. But I've got to tag it to something to create this question. That's just how our system works. So when I go to add concepts, I'm going to see what I have in my library on Shakespeare. I've got in my library, I created a lesson called Fun Facts About Shakespeare. So I am going to select that. And now this question that I created on Shakespeare can live in my library on my account because I have tagged it to something that is also in my library. And I can submit it. And this question does not automatically go live to the whole world. Again, this is still in my account. It's available for me to use. I can add other questions. I can preview the question. If I wanted to see what it would look like on a desktop, here it is. This is what the question would look like. That's weird because I copied and pasted it, so don't do that. But if I want to go back, I've got this one question here on Fun Facts About Shakespeare. And again, I can continue to build out this quiz with my own questions or other questions. You give your quiz a title. You can set the number of attempts. You could set a time limit if you prefer. You have choices of if you show hints, if you want to show the solution before or after the due date of the quiz. You could shuffle questions if you would like. These are all fun features of quizzes that we go over pretty thoroughly in our customizing adaptive practice session. So Carl's telling me we've got nothing active right now in the Q&A. So we're going to do kind of a last call here of I think we've gone through what I was hoping to accomplish. Carl is going to talk to you about some wrap-up information, but be thinking of anything else that you would like me to demonstrate for you before we close out on this webinar.
Fantastic. Alrighty, so the first thing that I want you to be aware of is the CK-12 Cafe. You might have heard about it a few times in the program already, but we have a great discussion forum section of our site called the CK-12 Cafe. Especially the Jumpstart for Educators Cafe would be an excellent spot for you to post questions or talk about your plans for any upcoming professional development. You're also going to be able to see previous questions that people have posted and the great replies either that CK-12 has given there or people from around the world that use CK-12. Don't forget that we have a ton of certified educator alumni like Casey, who's with us today, who would be happy to share their experiences and possibly collaborate with you. If you haven't already done so, check out the CEP alumni tab on the program page. Look for the envelope next to the person's name so you can reach out via email. We invite you to partner with us to see how you're using CK-12 and how it's supporting your learning and growth in your district or school. If you're interested in being a pilot school and sharing that information with us, please email us at jumpstart@ck12.org. And remember, this webinar is one of the core sessions for the CK-12 Certified Educator Program. If you joined our July 2019 class, you already have access to the class book and assignments. Please continue to complete all of your work there. And if you're brand new to the Certified Educator Program and would like more information on how to get started, and now you'll have at least one of the webinars under your belt, go to ck12.org/certified and click register. When you submit the form, the confirmation screen has all the information that you need to join the fall class and get started. We love feedback from our webinars, as we are always looking to improve them. If you have 2 or 3 minutes, please go to tinyurl.com/CK12feedback1920 and fill out a short survey to let us know how we're doing and how we can improve. But please, no feedback on the corny jokes or the snowflakes, okay? All right, and with that, we're going to say thank you so much for joining today. Let me assure you that we will continue to support you by helping out and reach out to us at support@ck12.org. Also, don't forget your social networks and post there, always tagging at CK12 Foundation or hashtag CK12 Certified. So that's it for today's core programming. But as promised, we will stay on afterward for any additional questions. So let's go to the question window, and there's nothing there.
And so that does wrap up our webinars for 2019. We are talking about what we want to launch in 2020. So you can look for more webinars coming soon in the new year. But for now, we will sign off and wish you well. And again, thank you for taking time to be with us today and reach out however we can help you. Thanks so much.
So from the CK12 family, we wish you happy holidays.